I got a tip for you. Don't let anybody stand this close.
Got a tip for you. Don't let no one get this close.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be going over the remake of Roadhouse. So let's get into that. Roadhouse tells a story about Dalton, a ex-UFC fighter who becomes a bouncer at a roadhouse to make it a lot nicer than what it is right now. Now, I just recently watched the original Roadhouse about a week ago, and I felt like that was just an instant classic for me. I absolutely love that movie. I thought Patrick Swayze did an amazing job in that film, and it's one of those movies that I'm definitely going to rewatch throughout all the years. I absolutely loved it. So I had a lot of high hopes coming into the remake with Roadhouse. Some of you may know Jake Gyllenhaal is my favorite actor of all time. Anything that Jake Gyllenhaal is in, I am there day one. I absolutely love the guy. I think he is an amazing actor. All of the movies that he's in are always super fucking kick-ass. So I expected this to be just as great. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into the pros for me. And the initial pro is that this does what any good remake does. Is you take a concept of an original, something that is beloved, and you make it your own. You make your own spin to it, you make your own flavor to it. I love that it's in a different setting. You still have the character of Dalton, but he has kind of a different background story, which is interesting. The main villain has kind of a different motivation, and it just feels different with having the same formula, which is always refreshing. I will say that part of me wanted a little bit of a beat for beat remake just because I thought that original one was so amazing. To see a remake with Jake Gyllenhaal being Patrick Swayze, I thought that would have been awesome. But I'm glad that it went in this direction with its own spin, its own flavor. And there's certain scenes that you're like, ah, that's from the original. But I would say like 70 to 80% of this movie is different, which I absolutely enjoyed. Outstop performances were great all across the board. Of course, like I said, Jake Gyllenhaal is my favorite actor, so I thought he did amazing. He wasn't as charismatic as someone like Patrick Swayze. He was a lot more menacing, a lot more serious, which I do enjoy that difference. But I was missing that charisma from him more than in the original. I wish he was a little bit more charismatic in the way he talks, the way he acts, and stuff like that. But I do really like his kind of more badass nature that he kind of brings to the table. And of course, the kind of big elephant in the room is Conor McGregor with his acting debut, and I thought he did fine. I thought he did great. He really just played himself. If anything, he kind of brought a lot of flavors what he brings to the UFC, like in real life, the way his demeanor is, the way he acts, the way he talks. So I thought he did an amazing job in terms of his acting ability. But for the most part, he kind of just portrayed a version of himself, which was kind of fun to see. And I thought that was a perfect antagonist for Dalton, having this guy that actually knows how to fight. Fight sequences, can we expect anything less? These fight sequences were fucking kick-ass, super badass. They felt super brutal. I enjoyed pretty much every single fight sequence that was in this fucking movie. It was just badass fight sequences throughout the entire film, very similar to the first one. These did feel a lot more brutal. The punches felt a lot more visceral. The choreography, the way they kind of even shot it too, it was kind of that chop, kind of filming where like every punch is a different angle, and you feel that kind of brutality, that the actual visceralness of the punches, which I really enjoyed. So I just really enjoyed the fight sequences. It definitely lives up to that Roadhouse name, and especially that final fight. I absolutely love the way that final fight went. The imagery, like there's, from the original Roadhouse and even in this one, the stage has like that cage on it so that people throwing beers cannot actually hit the performers. But I love that final sequence where you have Jake Gyllenhaal as Dalton and Conor McGregor's character. They're about to square off for their final fight, and the camera pans behind the cage, so it looks like they're in an octagon in the UFC. So I just thought that filmmaking, that imagery was pretty awesome. Seeing that, and then having that badass fight sequence at the end, and especially the way it ended, was just brutal, and I thought it was fucking awesome. And while, like I said, this is a 80% different movie from the original, I do enjoy that 20% where it still kind of paid a little bit of homage to the original movie, having very similar lines, similar sequences, similar like training parts, or how he kind of lives his own life, the way he carries himself. I do enjoy that they kind of had some similarities to the original to kind of give it that Roadhouse, charm, while still being its own thing. And also really enjoyed the comedy in this movie. I thought there were so many aspects of it that actually made me have a laugh out loud moment. And there's one of these, kind of one of the bad guys that is kind of just there. He's like one of the biker gangs, and he's just so comedically pleasing. He like I just thought it was hilarious. All of his little one-liners, kind of all of his little dumb moments. It just made for a lot of good laughs. And even Jake Gyllenhaal himself, kind of what he brought to the table, and even the owner of the Roadhouse, they all had these like really funny one-liners that had some pretty awesome comedic relief. And I thought this was actually a pretty funny movie overall. And I'm also happy that I kind of mentioned this a little bit briefly that, you know, obviously Conor McGregor being the final fight was actually someone that could fight. Not like in the original Roadhouse where the old dude fights Patrick Swayze and he kicks his ass and they're just very unbelievable. This feels a lot more believable because it's someone who was actually menacing, and it was a actually kick-ass antagonist that didn't feel like he wouldn't be able to fight any other day, but all of a sudden he can kick this badass down, which I really enjoyed that the final fight actually felt believable on how brutal it was. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the cons for me. And there's just a lot of characters that we're missing here. You know, the blind character that's the main performance at the bar, the kind of best buddy that is the one that kind of brought him up and trained him to be a kick-ass fighter. There's just a lot of different characters that are missing. Like even like the romance is kind of missing in this. The romance is barely there. So like some of that Roadhouse charm that I was expecting to see and I was hoping to see wasn't there. And like I said, I like that it went in a different direction, but I wish there was still more of that flavor there, where you still feel like you're watching a Roadhouse movie, which you do. You know, it goes in a different direction, but you do still feel like you're watching a Roadhouse movie. But there was just characters that I wish that we saw a reimagining of, and I thought that would have worked a lot better. Also with the Roadhouse itself, the bar, you know, I like that because of Dalton's presence, it becomes more and more popular over time. I didn't like that it didn't kind of advance in terms of how good it looks. You know, like they don't take away the cage from the performance stage. The interior of the bar looks the same throughout the entire film. So the popularity gets there, but the progression of the actual bar itself being a little bit nicer never really does. And that's one part that I enjoyed from the first one, to kind of just seeing that progression of success of the bar. And while the fight sequences were badass, acting was great, there was a lot of portions towards the second act that just felt a little slow, a little boring. There were certain times where I did feel myself be a little bored, I'm not gonna lie. And I was just like, this is not the same from what I expected. You know, it's still a kick-ass movie, but it's missing something, and I don't know what that is. I really don't. You know, there was something about it that was missing, and I don't know what it was. Maybe, like I said, it was those characters that were missing, the romance, the friend that kind of brought him up. There was just certain pieces that were missing, and I don't know what it was that made some of the sequences and some of like the middle act feel a little bit boring and lackluster amongst the rest of the movie that's really high intensity and kick-ass. So, but overall, I think the movie did its job of making a pretty kick-ass remake of the original Roadhouse. I still highly, highly enjoyed it, even though there's some parts that felt missing to me, felt a little empty and bland. It's still one of those movies where you can watch the original, you can watch this one. They have the same flavor, but they're still two both kick-ass Roadhouse movies that you can thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy. Let me know what you guys thought about the remake of the Roadhouse. Did you guys enjoy it? Were you guys expecting a little bit more? Do you guys get exactly what you expected? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear all you guys' thoughts on this particular movie. And again, if you guys like talking about anything movies, TV shows, or video game related, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you guys on the next review. Thank you.